So earlier Andy was talking about how we're able to show all these metrics to the carrier, how the device can benefit them. We were also able to show them metrics of how, because we have a service on the back end that's acting as a proxy for the internet, we could compress things a great deal. So we could make a much more efficient use of the wireless bandwidth that was available than, say, a Pocket PC device with a GPRS radio modem in it that's connecting to an ISP. And based on that and those analyses, we were able to convince them to launch the product with flat rate data pricing. It was the first consumer flat rate data plan in the United States. And that was a huge triumph, because you don't want your users who are used to having broadband dial-up and surfing web pages, without regard for how much it's going to cost them. They know they're going to pay a fixed amount per month, or how many instant messages they send someone. You want to replicate that experience. You don't want them to be worrying about, okay, if I send this IM, is that going to be another 5 cents on my bill? Or if I surf this web page, is that going to be another 25 to 50 cents? So we recognized that as a key part of this product, from a consumer's point of view, it had to replicate that experience. One of the analogies that we use is that this isn't totally the same thing, but you have a cell phone, you understand what it's good for, you can access content that you used to be able to access only with your desk phone. The benefit of it is that you have it with you no matter where you are. We felt like it was about time for that same thing to happen for wireless data devices. You know what the web is good for, you know what email is good for, you know what instant messaging is good for. You can imagine how much more useful that would be if you had it with you all the time. But there's already a mindset about how you use that. It has to be flat rate. So we were able to convince them, like I said, through showing them that the data compression would make it okay for them from a profit point of view, and they launched it. As a result, other carriers are starting to follow suit, even with systems that don't necessarily make as much sense as the hip-top. This is also something that's very different from the way that it works in Asia and Europe. In both of those countries, everything is still metered. So in the US, we're the first ones to have flat rate data pricing, which is very important for this kind of product.
Right, so to a certain extent, your question specifically, why are Asia, say in Europe, much further ahead in a lot of these things? Part of it is because they can bill by the packet. So SMS, it's a huge business in Europe because it's less expensive than phone calls, and people pay for every phone call. So I think that the business models and the customer behavior allows them to build out services that they can't necessarily monetize as effectively here. Another thing is that in the US, and of course this is changing even as we speak, but there's a lot of wireless carriers. And so the pricing is very competitive, and there also are multiple wireless standards. So those are issues that, I'm not a macroeconomist, but economist, but they say the market will take care of some of those things long term. And I guess you're starting to see consolidation now, so that hopefully will help drive some of those things. Well, also the part of what Dangerfield's that we brought is we brought this consuming, compelling application to consume some of this data capacity that they were building. So one can also make the argument, what are really great wireless data products, and there maybe aren't that many. So it's also finding the right devices to push innovation as well. And we hope we help in that regard.
And I'm sure you've heard this before, right? But in the United States, there's just a huge penetration of desktop machines and internet into people's homes. And in Europe and Asia, it wasn't, a couple of years ago, it wasn't as significant as it was in the United States. So people turned to their mobile devices for some of those data services that they didn't even have at home. Their device became the only way they receive email, for example, for some developing countries. So because somebody already had that solution in their living room, it helped us, but it also put them ahead on that being prevalent in all devices, right?